So you'll be here like, all right, so here we're going to compare, and it's not really a fair comparison, but we're going to compare some rods from Manley. For this build, I'm going with a Manley H-beam rod, pretty well known. Some people also go for the Turbo Tough rods. These hold around 700 horsepower or so, so that's plenty of room to grow for me, because I'm still hoping to stay somewhere around the 380, 400 range. Pistons I'm going with are Trump pistons. And I know it sounds a lot like the name of the president, but I was first pronouncing them Traum, but Trump is what you go with. I got these from JJ Auto Works. I've mentioned him in the last couple videos, but I just want to give you a compare of what you get when you upgrade some of these materials. A lot of people say, oh, I have forged internals and forged rods, forged pistons, and they don't really know what they've got. And I think the beauty of going through this yourself, although there's a lot of downside, is that you get to see exactly what you're putting into your engine. There's no guesswork, none of that. So I'm gonna share some of that with you guys. But before I get into it, I do want to talk about the live stream that is booked for Friday, October 9th. It's confirmed now. I talked to Derek, 8 p.m. Friday, October 9th. Put that in your calendar. We're gonna talk about just a few topics. I'm gonna try to keep it under an hour, hour and a half. I can't keep it under an hour. That's just impossible. We're gonna try to keep it under 90 minutes. That's gonna be a fun hangout, fun chat. We'll talk about dyno tuning. We'll talk about any questions you might have. You can pop them into the chat, and you know, the good ones are going to get asked. But if you ask some dumb questions, I don't know, I might even still talk about it. Whatever. You guys are great. All of you guys that have been following me, Daddy June, a couple of the guys, just I appreciate the work that you're doing, just making the effort to watch these videos, enjoying the live stream. The live streams are like by far the most fun. So don't forget, put in your calendar, Friday, October 9th, 8 p.m. So let's move on to the pistons really quick. So first I'm going to show you the pistons. Okay, so there's the skirt of the piston. You can see roughly how thin that is. These are the oil jets and the piston rings. And as you can see, these are from an RBB motor or RSX type S motor. But still, construction is pretty much the same for a Honda piston. This is where the wrist pin goes. So now I'll take out one of the pistons here. I did open this up already, so I'm really not gonna do an unboxing. Those are kind of getting old by now. We'll start with the piston. Now, funny enough, Juan gets his logo put out here, JJ Auto Works, that's his shop. Follow him on his website, Instagram. But the Trump logo actually goes underneath. I don't know who he had to please to get this logo on here, but as you can see, it's shiny, it looks cool. The biggest difference, we'll look again at the skirt. So you've got all this girth here, all this meat. And some people might say that you're sacrificing weight there, but when you sacrifice in weight, you get back in strength. And again, you know, this, I guess I could weigh these, but I'm not gonna bother today. But trust me when I tell you, it's really not a huge difference. Onto the wrist pins. Here's the Trum wrist pins, which is included when you buy them. These normally, if you buy another piston like a Wiseco or a CP, you normally have to choose the upgraded option, but they supply these off the bat when you order them. But there you go. As you can see, major differences here. This is obviously heavier than this, but what you lose in weight, you gain in sort of strength. And there's already enough light stuff going into this motor. The valves are much lighter and everything like that. So I'm really not too concerned. All right, so now we'll talk about rods. This is obviously the OEM rod for the RSX Type S. And I'll show you an OEM rod for our motors, the 9thGen R40 motors. Here it is. The Type S one is actually much thicker. Man, I wish I had a gauge. Let me see if I have a gauge. So first, I'm gonna measure just this point here, where the 10 is. Just to be fair and have a point of reference, I'll measure the top and I'll measure the bottom. So that's about 20 mil. And at the top, right below the thing, 19 mil. Let's see, 19.9. So not a lot lost between the middle and the top. The bottom, just where it starts to curb, 23.7 mil. Now for the R40 or the 9thGen, the middle, 18.4, middle. 16.7.9 at the top. The bottom, 22.6. So there you have it. These are the numbers I'm seeing. All right, so now that you saw that, I'll show you the Manley rod. A comparison between that and the Type S rod. This difference is obviously a major difference. This is an H design versus an I design. Just means that if you put it like this and you cut it in half, you'll see an H. And this one, if you put it like this, if you cut it in half, there'll be an I. Make sense? Okay, so another thing is, so I've gotten a lot of questions why this build is sort of going the route that it's going. Number one is why I didn't go with a, more mainstream piston like Wiseco or CP. And the simple reason why is I was originally going to go with a CP piston or CR, whatever. But, when I reach out to my buddy Juan, and Juan's been doing this for way longer than me. I mean, that dude, he was building Supra engines. He's built, Honda engines, Mitsubishi engines, and by himself. So not like, oh, hey, I paid a shop for this. When he told me to go with a Trump piston and also the price on this, you can't beat it. If you want to know prices, hit him up. His IG will be down here. The Manley rods, I think it's a pretty common route. He did recommend I stick to Manley rods. And I'm not going to be opposed to that. The last video I posted about the gears, which are actually under here. Oh man. So I posted that on Facebook and everyone's like, right, the first comment I got on a 9thGen group, I got, oh, hey, you should have went PPG gears. And I said, well, no, I already had PPG gears. A lot of people assume that, oh, they're car, they don't know what they're doing. I've already had PPG gears. I had them in my RSX. That thing was making 440 foot-pounds of torque. and it was still at the low end, albeit it was turbo. At the low end, there was too much gearing. There was, and tall gearing is great if you are a street racer. If you don't want to spend a lot of time shifting, if you're autocrossing, for example, and you need a very tall first or second gear. But knowing that this car is not meant to be the monster that that car was, why should I put the same tall gearing if it's just gonna make the car feel soft? Because you'll be here like, sorry for the annoying one, but that's kind of like what the gears and the superchargers sound like. So I went with a short ratio. Some of these gears are like, they're actually shorter than the OEM factory gears. Like for example, fifth gear, this one will top out at around, I don't know, I think it's like 120 at 8,000 RPM versus the OEM one tops out at 134, I think, at the same RPM. So why did I give that up? Because I wanted that response, that like get up and go. Lime Rock has a lot of slow corners that you come out of, like Big Bend. And for my use, I'll be still daily driving this car. I'll still be going to Lime Rock pretty often. It's an hour away. Why would I put a tall gear so that I can just, you know, drag ass down a straight and then come out of the corner waiting for my RPMs to build up? It's obviously a lot harder to have a shorter gear ratio. Because you have to control your throttle, but it's a lot easier to control your throttle response than to just sit there waiting for power and torque to come in, because it's you have such a long gear to do that with. I'm expected to see something like, you know, tire shredding response that, you know, I'll have to learn to control. Big whoop. So that was a very long explanation. So with that, I hope that it makes sense to some of you guys. Personally, I don't care. It's my build. I build it the way I want it, the way I like the car. Some people thought that I got these because they're cheaper. They're not. They're not cheaper than Gear X. Another one is, everyone's like, you should have gotten Gear X. It's not one size fits all. I said, no, well, Gear X is also sort of very tall. It's a very tall gearing. If anything, PPG has two options in gearing for helical, and they have a shorter ratio than Gear X. And I know that Gear X has different, you know, options for, you know, gearing, but neither of those options fit my need. And if I went with Gear X, I would have saved $1,000 on gears, period. So that sort of tells you something. I could have went more expensive with PPG, not what I wanted. Cheaper with Gear X, not what I wanted. Or just do what I like. I did what the hell I like. And with all that being said, I'm going to check out of here. Thanks for following along. Subscribe, hit the bell, hit the thumbs up. See you guys next week.